So today I have Wes Coombs. I actually coached him my last year at Ottawa for the spring, and he was a transfer, and now he's doing some great things. So you want to introduce yourself, where you've been, what you've done, and I think he's going to talk to us about a few drills today.
I'm Wes Coombs. I'm the special teams coordinator, recruiting coordinator here at Concordia University in Nebraska. I've coached the secondary here for the past 5 years, going on my sixth year here. I played my freshman, sophomore year at Dodge City Community College in 2010, 2011. Transferred from there, went to Ottawa. At Dodge, I played safety and a little bit of corner, which I shouldn't have been playing. After I transferred to Ottawa, they moved me to linebacker. I played outside linebacker for Coach Davis and Coach Homolka there for 2 years. Once I graduated from Ottawa, I was looking into getting into coaching, and I couldn't make anything hit, so I ended up actually having to move back home. I worked in a shingle factory for a year, kind of trying to just putting out resumes and applications everywhere. And my head coach from Dodge, Bob Majeski, hooked me up here at Concordia with the guys. And I got a GA spot here. As a GA, I was the DB's coach strictly in the secondary. And then that kind of parlayed into a full-time job when it came up, and I got the special teams and recruiting coordinator title at that point in time. So I'm going on my 6th year here, and I've been in the secondary the entire time while I've been doing it.
Awesome. Let's see this drill you got for me.
So kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about was the way that we train eyes in the secondary here. And the reason I think it's so important, and that guy, Bob Majeski, my old coach, used to always say, your eyes are right and your body position's right, you win the battle. I mean, that's the main thing. So a lot of guys, if you talk to technical gurus and things like that, they're going to have all these different things that they want to do in specific ways they want footwork done and things like that. I'm not a huge believer in that stuff, strictly because everybody's different, and I fully understand that. I mean, I was much different than some of the guys that I played with when we were doing it. So if I can get guys to get their eyes right and their body position right, I feel like I've done it. I can work on the other things more individually with them instead of just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks with everybody. One of the big things that we do with that is, and I know there's some people that don't agree with this, but we rarely use a ball when we teach transitions and we teach anything like that. We're more focused on where our eyes going to get as soon as we get out of our breaks. And so we'll do this drill. There's a couple drills I want to show you, but the main drill that we start out with, we just call this our dummy transition drill. And this is going to be tough to see. I didn't put anything real crazy together, but basically we'll have two guys stand here, and we'll start a DB in the middle, and I'll be right here. Like I said, no ball, no anything like that. And I'll just I'll say go, and then they're going to start backpedaling. When I say break, they're going to break to whatever direction that we tell them. So if I send him on a back pedal, I say break, and this guy flashes his hands out. He's going to make his transition steps. He's going to break, and he's going to work long arm in front of that guy trying to break his hands out just like he's working on a route. And it's a real basic drill, but like I said, it can teach a lot of really good things about where to transition to, where to transition your eyes, and then how to play the ball once you get on a finish. So like I said, we'll have this dummy guy here. He'll flash his arms out. Once we make our break, we work down to it. We don't worry about a ball or anything else. We long arm to that, and we try to break his hands. Another thing that I've learned just in the past couple of years is that when you teach how to break up the ball and finish on things like that, a lot of guys are naturally going to kind of come over and swat at it, kind of try to rake it down is what I think they even used to teach a lot of that stuff. I remember doing some of that, where you're going to rake the ball down, rake his hands down so he has to make a one-handed catch. I hate that because more often than not, you can pin the ball to him and maybe help him, make a play on something like that. What I much rather have our guys do when they're breaking hands out is being real aggressive. It's kind of like a jab, but I want them working up and out with that long arm and working up through the hands, not down on them. I think the probability of them pinning a ball is much higher than them catching a ball that's been bobbled out and hit on things like that. So we work up and out when we break hands. We don't ever swipe. We don't ever rake. We don't do anything like that. That's something we just hammer into our guys. So we'll work 45s, and then we'll move him up, and we'll work our 90s, the same exact drill that we do. We'll work a 90-degree break. I always call it an 80-degree break because I feel like if you tell somebody to do something, especially a football player, on trail up a little bit instead of coming straight back down to it. So when we make our 80-degree breaks, you're backpedaling, they're still coming downhill a little bit, working to get that long arm in front of the guy. So we'll work 45s, we'll work those 80-degree breaks, like I said, and then we'll work post and corner routes off of that. Same thing, I got my 2 dummies outside. I'm sitting him on a back pedal. I tell him to break. He breaks to it. Same thing, working to punch through the arms, punch up and through the arms. The big thing about so your eyes, you want to get them to the receiver. You want to get them to his hip. You want to get them to his hands. You want to see what he's doing as soon as you break. When you're defending a post or a corner, it changes a little bit because now we want them to aim to his top shoulder while they're running. The reason for that being, and this is something that happens kind of the first week of camp every year, is that we'll send a guy here, and even if we're in one-on-ones or whatever, as soon as he's guarding a post, he's going to run this way, and he's going to look for the ball and naturally trail this way, and he's going to get a ball caught on deep every single time. That's what always happens. So when we work these post and corner transitions, I'm always yelling, get to the top shoulder, and then playing through the arms that way. Like I said, that's the dummy transition drill that we do. We kind of move off of that. And like I said, it's all about the body position, where we want their long arm to be and stuff like that, securing the tackle. We also do this drill, we call it a field drill. So you have your wide receiver here. Your DB is going to trail a little bit. He's not in phase, so he's still working out of phase, so he's still watching his hip. But this can be a really slow drill. This doesn't have to be anything really fast. But so you'll say go, send the receiver up. He breaks. This DB's trailing his hip. As soon as he breaks, I want to see the DB get his long arm in front and secure the tackle with the back. So he's getting his long arm in front, playing this, makes the break. Now the receiver comes back up. We're still trailing in the hip. As soon as he breaks, same thing. I want to work that other long arm to stay in front of him. Once we work long arm here, we'll work out 2 times. And then once we get to the top of this, we're either going to work a post or a corner. And after this second break, we turn this into a competition drill. So when they're running these vertical routes, we want our guys to be comfortable covering deep routes. That's the main thing. If you're uncomfortable doing that, you're going to struggle, especially if you're playing man, corner, or anything like that. So once he makes the second break, that receiver's taking off from the post or corner. It's the same thing. As soon as that DB sees it, he's going to work top shoulder to it and then work his hands off of that. We call that the field drill. That's kind of the next step in that whole process. And then the last drill that I want to talk about, we just call this our phase drill. And these are the routes that we're going to cover in this. So in the phase drill, like I said a little bit before, the main thing that we want to do with all these drills is create comfortability for our guys when they're covering deep balls. So this receiver is going to have a choice. He can either run a straight vert, he can break it off onto a post, he can run a dig, or he can run a comeback on this. DB is going to turn, get in transition with him. He's going to trail the hip. You're still staying out of phase, or you're working to get in phase, but you're trailing the hip. If he's going to run vertical, you're trailing. I don't want to see our guys turn back and look at the ball at all unless they have complete control of the receiver. We always say you have to have 110% control of the receiver if you do that. So he's trailing. He's working the vertical ball. We'll throw the ball. We'll do this on one-on-ones or whatever, but this is after we've already talked about getting your eyes right and things like that. They're not supposed to be looking at the ball unless they're 110% sure that they've got this guy covered and he's under control. And like I said, it's kind of the same situation with the other drills that we do, where if this guy breaks on a dig, I want to see our DB turn and have his hands right underneath. I want to see that same long arm secure the tackle with any of that stuff. Another way that we kind of talk through this stuff is a tempo drill that we've done before, where if a receiver, if he's taken off and you start seeing him shuffle his feet, you've got to shuffle your feet too. You've got to kind of mirror that tempo. So once he sees feet start breaking down, he can turn, he can go make a play on the ball. Same thing on a comeback or anything like that, just trying to work these guys into different body positions. So this we'll do this full speed. We'll do this with our receiver group. We'll do this with all those guys. The last kind of thing I want to talk about with this is the most uncomfortable position somebody can be in is if you're man-to-man, you're on an island, and somebody's running a vert against you. I mean, it's just naturally uncomfortable for DB. Like I said, they shouldn't have ever lined me up at corner at Dodge, and that happened to me, and I would crap my pants every time they would do it. So we really focus on working to get in phase, but once you're in phase, to look and lean. And you'll hear people talk about look and lean and all that stuff. The best way that I've figured out how to do it, and we do this in our EDDs, we do this pre-practice every single day, is you have a receiver line up and he'll just start jogging. And once you say ball, your DB's already in phase. He's going to work to get his elbow in front of the receiver's elbow and put kind of his flank is what we talk about. Put your flank on their body with your hips still behind him. The reason we do this every day is because, like I said earlier, you get guys that are so terrified of getting beat that they'll turn and they'll try to get on top of the route initially. And then that's when you get the back shoulder catches, you get the comebacks on you all the time. I want to keep our hips behind them every time we do this. Put my flank on the side of them, get my elbow in front, and then I can control him with my body. If my hips are in front and my elbow's in front, I can't control him. He's going to get the comeback. He's going to get all that stuff. If everything's behind him, well, now I got to play just my out of phase. I got to play with the long arm and go play the ball. But if you're completely in phase, I want this elbow in front, your hips behind, and your flank on him, pressing him to the sideline, working him to the sideline with all that stuff. Explaining the look and lean to those guys is what they get it initially, and then you go through one-on-ones and drills, and every single time, I mean, you'll see me screaming on when they're not. They'll turn and look, ball's over their head, they're getting a touchdown caught on them in one-on-ones. They're embarrassed. That's kind of just 3 quick drills that we do just to kind of work on the eyes. Like I said, I think that's the most important part about playing the position. I think that's the most important part about playing most positions is getting your eyes right, your body position. But, I mean, everybody's different. I mean, you're going to coach different guys that do so many different things that if you can just find a way to relate one thing to all of them, you're doing a pretty solid job. And all the other stuff that comes with the technique and the footwork and all that stuff, I like to work that more individually. I don't like to do wholesale group, do this a certain way, do this a certain way, do this a certain way, because it's always different for everybody. And you create relationships with your players by individually kind of coaching them on what they're good at, you know, and what they're not. Kind of an example that I have about – it's kind of my reason that I'm not a huge technique guru guy. We had a 6'1", guy ran a 4.40, played corner for us my first 2 years. His name was Terry Troby. Guy was an absolute stud. If a guru would have came in and looked at the way that he played corner and did his back pedal and his stance and all of that, he would have thrown up because it all looked awful. But at the end of the day, he was always going to get in the right body position. He was always going to have his eyes right. He made every single play where his technique wasn't 100%, but it worked for him, and we found different ways to make things work for him. That's just – I believe that's what you have to do with every one of your players. Like, they're all different. You got to find different ways to get each of them to kind of do the things you want them to do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. You got to, that's how you become a good coach. It's not that you just spew the same thing of teaching people to be robots. You teach how teach this guy to pedal, maybe this guy to shuffle, whatever's best for each kid, and that's how you become a good coach. So tell us a little bit about your school and what areas you personally recruit.
So I'm from Phillipsburg, Kansas. It's a tiny little town out in western Kansas. I recruit the entire state of Kansas for us. We recruit the entire state of Nebraska, and we're really big in Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Texas, those areas. We have kids that show interest from all over the country. Concordia is I don't even know what you call it. It's like a sister school to about 9 other different Concordias that you hear about. So you get a lot of interest from alums, kids, and things like that want to come check out Concordia University. But we mainly stick our most of our recruiting is in Kansas, Nebraska, and Texas. We lead the NAIA and all-time academic All-Americans here. A really good education program here. We try to get as many guys shifted to that education program because a lot of our guys want to end up being coaches and things like that. And that's something that we really push. Say, if you want to be a coach, You can play for us for 4 years. You can help us out for a year or two, and then you'll have your education degree. Go out in the world, and we have a ton of alum that are teachers and coaches and things like that. It's just Concordia is a really tight knit community. It's a lot different than some other places that I've been where they're really, the alumni are hyper involved here, which is it's a very good thing. It helps out our university a lot. And we like to keep that stuff going.